but I'm Sanjay Dalal, the founder and CEO of oGoing. We have an amazing, I would say, conversation today, with Ravi Kikan. Ravi is someone I've known through LinkedIn for, I would say, over 10 years now. And, he's, I would call him like the startups, coach or the startups mentor, an entrepreneur's entrepreneur, if you may. And I think he, and he's been on a prolific journey of late. He has written his second book called Bounce Back Now. And I've been reading it for the last couple of days. I haven't finished it yet, but I've read a lot of chapters. And it's
That's good.
really important for I would say everybody who's attending today to download your ebook from Amazon or wherever else, you can find it. It really lays out a lot of good points on how you can lead your startup or your upstart or that is the growing business. But before I have Ravi come and share, it's a fireside chat, so I'm going to go around the audience, and whoever wants to chat, welcome them, to our event today, and just tell us in 30 seconds or less who you are, what do you do, and where you are logging in from. So I'm just going to look at the list here and start off with Anshuman. Anshuman, how are you doing?
Thank you, Sanjay. My 30 seconds starts now. So, hey, hello, everyone. My name is Anshuman Sinha. I'm the president of an organization called TIE SoCal. It is a global organization of entrepreneurs. We are in 14 countries, 61 chapters, 15,000 members, and 3,000 mentors and charter members. We do a weekly event every Wednesday in this COVID world. My day job is I run an executive search firm called Optism Global, and I welcome you all to this event and also request you all to come and attend our TIE SoCal event, which happens on Wednesday. Next Wednesday, it is Sanjay who is going to impart his experience and knowledge. So looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Sanjay.
Thank you, Anshuman. I guess I didn't even do that pitch yet. So thanks for doing that. And Anshuman and I have known, each other for many years now. And he is, despite the pandemic, that we all know that we're in the midst of, he and his team at TIE SoCal, and I know Anil has joined as well. They are doing an incredible job, running this organization this year for entrepreneurs and recruiting a lot of new chartered members. I think the other day you just announced 13 new members. That's
Yes.
That's some kind of a record in itself. So really proud to be part of his team this year. After Anshuman, I see Dave here. Dave White, how are you, David?
I'm good. How are you? I'm always curious to learn new things. I'm retired. I work with SCORE, and SCORE helps small business. And also SCORE helps at Cal State Fullerton. So every now and then I'm looking for resources or guest speakers for Cal State Fullerton or for the SCORE organization. As everyone's trying to reinvent themselves right now, you can learn from lots of different ways. And Sanjay, I've been to one or two of your events and I always like to listen to it.
Thanks, Dave. I do remember that. So thank you for attending our face-to-face events. I know you have in the past, the Business Owners Roundtable, and now this fireside chat. So really appreciate you being here. We have Amrit Bhai, Amrit ji, how are you? Amrit Bhandari, sir, how are you? Amrit,
You're on mute, Amrit ji.
Let me unmute you, Amrit ji. Go ahead and unmute your microphone. Okay, there you go. Amrit Bhai, you can talk now, yeah. Okay, there's a little disconnect. So Ashok Bhai, how are you? You can go ahead next.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ashok Seth. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'm in a business for last 40 years in a flooring business, which is tile, marble, and everything. And my son and 20 of his young friends joined the company. So all I'm doing is a PR work for the company and also plan to spend 3 to 6 months in India to explore everything personal and business to do some business with the United States.
It's good to see you, Ashok Bhai, after a long time. I know in between your Mumbai trips and in SoCal. So I'm glad we are connecting online on Zoom now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping me in touch.
Absolutely. Amrit Bhai, are you back or maybe we come back to you later? Anil, go ahead.
Hi,
Anil.
Sanjay. Hi, Sanjay. Thank you for hosting this event. Appreciate it. And, whenever I join, I always learn new things, in Sanjay's events. Thank you. And my name is Anil Ramaneni. I work with Anshuman a lot. I am the executive director of TIE SoCal. And pretty much every day we talk and work and meet and stuff. And my day job is running a IT solutions and software development company. We do cloud migrations, setting up security environments. Nowadays, we do a lot of VPN setups for these companies because of everybody working remotely. So, and we do some software development. That's
Thank
pretty
you.
much what we do.
Thanks, Anil. Great to see you and look forward to, again, huddling up next week. Chandra, go ahead, Chandra.
Hey, my name is Chandra Subramanian. My full-time day job is I'm a manager for business intelligence and data warehousing for Edwards Life Sciences.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my day job. But I'm associated with the company named Data Analytics. That's myself and my friend. We are also, getting jobs from companies, similar to how Anil was saying. It's IT services, financial services, and data services. So we are offering those, ERP configuration, data migration, all those services to smaller and medium businesses. And also I'm nurturing few ideas, as I always do, how we can make it big. So always listen to, different ideas. I was part of TIE a few years back, but my connection is not that active anymore. I recently reached out to Anshuman and probably you, Sanjay, and definitely want to revive those connections and,
Yes.
get things going.
Absolutely. We'll be happy to. Yeah, good to see you, Chandra. Thanks for joining. Yeah.
Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks for organizing it.
Absolutely. Chris has joined. Chris, I'm saying it correctly. Chris Wells, W-A-L-S, Wells.
Yeah, I'm Chris Wells. I also live just outside of Los Angeles in Manhattan Beach, California.
Yeah.
I have a coaching business that's focused on helping mid-career professionals who are feeling burned out or unfulfilled in their work. I help them create businesses of their own that are based on purpose and passion to help give them a sense of freedom now instead of waiting until they're retired to get there.
Yeah, of course.
Right, yeah. So I'm always looking for new ways to help my clients and learn and grow myself. So thank you for putting this on. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Chris, for joining. I appreciate you coming here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
John King. John, how are you? John, can you hear us? You have to unmute your mic. Okay. I guess he's probably in listening mode. Kenny, you want to say a couple of things or you're also in listening mode? Okay. Koshi, how are you, Koshi? Koshi Samuel?
Yeah, Sanjay, thank you. I'm joining you from Muscat, Oman. I keep receiving sometimes your email, but this is the first time I'm hearing the webinar or seeing you face to face.
Oh, good to see you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, I work for a Canadian company here in the oil field manufacturing, and my role is business development. So in my past, I worked for some major companies like Schlumberger and GE.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm here in Oman. Thank you, and thanks for the invite on this webinar.
Good to put a face to you, Koshi, after a long time. Thanks for joining in. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, my wife and I were watching this movie the other day on a quick 10-second on Hotstar called Khuda Hafiz, and I think it's set up in Oman. I think from what I could see. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You want to check it out on Hotstar. Yeah. So we have Snehal here. Snehal, how are you?
Hi, Sanjay. Yeah, I'm doing well. How about you?
Good, good. Just a couple of things about you, and I guess where you're from, Irvine.
Yes.
And
So, hi everyone. My name is Snehal. I live in Orange County, California, and I am a web designer. I design and host websites for small to medium-sized businesses. So
thank
that's all
you,
right.
Snail.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for joining. And Coach Sturdy, a quick word from you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Sanjay. I'm Sturdy McKee. I train, coach, advise business owners with like between 5 and 100 employees. Basically, the people who went out into business because they're good at something but don't know much about business.
Fantastic.
I'm in San Francisco, by the way.
Yeah, and be safe out there. A lot of weird weather things are going on, so it's freaking everybody out here in SoCal. That hopefully doesn't come here, but at least be safe.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. So again, let me go ahead and share. And if you're not talking, please do put us on mute. So your microphones, that is. So Ravi, let's get back to Ravi Kikan here. Ravi, it's great to have you here.
Awesome.
Our co-host for today's fireside chat. Let me share the screen quickly. How to bounce back now and grow in tough times. And it comes from his book that he has published as well recently. And just give you a sense of that's what it would have been if you're outside somewhere enjoying a good fire, but I guess this is online, so we'll take that. A quick word on oGoing and what oGoing is all about. We are a business community like a LinkedIn, although our focus is the SMBs, small businesses. We have 100,000 members. They're predominantly local, small, and growing businesses. And what it does is it's a very good platform to boost your brand, which is very important in this day and age, especially now more than ever. A business with a great brand creates a lot of trust, creates a lot of authenticity. And, people and professionals, they love doing business, with a great brand. It helps you boost your business. You can make connections with over 100,000 members now, both locally, regionally, and even nationally. And really helps you expand, if you may, your network, by being on oGoing. And finally, it has a huge boost on your SEO. So an oGoing business profile, believe it or not, if you're an active member on oGoing, it actually gives your website a huge boost and allows you to boost your SEO to the point where, your website as well as your profile starts getting ranked ahead of your competition. And who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want, you to be found on that first page of a Google or a Bing or Yahoo versus a second or third or some nth page where nobody can find you. So again, it does have a boost. And the reason for that is it's a verified business community. So every business that joins, we verify them and we make sure they are legitimate. We make sure they are who they are. And, we reject more businesses who are trying to join versus the ones who accept, so we want to make sure it's a very high quality business community. So please do join. It's free to join, and would love for you to be part of this community and do share what's going on. That's a blurb on oGoing. And now we are with Ravi Kikan, Bounce Back Now. Ravi, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Sanjay. And thanks for inviting in. I think it's, I've seen your journey from the time that you started your POC some 100 million years ago.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and I remember you fiddling with your logos and you fiddling with the vision of it. But I'm so glad, in all these years you've come down to something which is concrete, which is proven, and which is fruitful in one nature. So I'm pretty happy to be here.
Yeah, and we'll start off and fire off, as I say, it's a fireside chat. So we'll fire off with a quote from none other than the great Elon Musk. And I guess he is the brand. He's the entrepreneur, the innovator, I guess, of 2020. You could say that, or for the past 10 years.
Hold on, the first virtual convention. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I did want to get your take on this issue of.
Please do mute your microphones if you are not talking. So, you know, this quote, and it's very important for today's conversation, starting and growing a business is as much about the innovation, the drive, and the determination of the people who do it as it is about the product they make and sell. I think in this one quote, there is a lot, you know, about the bounce back paradigm that we're going to talk about quickly with Ravi as well. So Ravi Kikan formally is the author of 2 books, Bounce Back Now and How to Validate Your Startup Business Idea. And from what I'm hearing, there is one more book coming this year. Ravi, is that true?
Yeah. So I want to keep the Holy Trinity up and running in terms of getting it done. While you're on the go, I mean, I personally feel that if you have content, you have the right kind of people to advise you or suggest. There's no harm, there's no limit to getting your content out to people who really need it. So I think yes.
And so now becoming a prolific writer and author, but of course before that, you know, from where I actually came to know Ravi was he was having this startup community. So when I was launching oGoing back in 2009 and 10, yeah, it does sound a million years ago. So I remember joining this community that Ravi had created and actually interacting with him back then, you know, both for advice and also, as you rightly put it, the logo itself, because I think back then we had the logo with just the oGoing without the what's going on. And I remember there was a big ant that, you know, we were really fascinated by the Bug's Life or by Pixar at that time. By the way, the ant is still there as our favicon on the website. But you know, I do remember talking to you about that, and eventually we simplified, and here is the logo now. But I think besides the logo, you know, he's been a great advisor to many startups. You know, both as a mentor as well as a director, board of advisors, and you know, Ravi. You know, we're going to do some conversation today. You know, both with me, but as well as anybody who has a question. It is a fireside chat, so it is an open, you know, platform. You know, feel free to jump in, you know, because that's what we want, you know, in today's chat for sure. But Ravi, let me bounce off immediately with the bounce back now. You know, you came out with this book. I've been reading this. I think there's so many great inputs for, you know, for entrepreneurs and owners aside. But one particular point that I liked a lot, and I wish I had done a lot more of that in my early goings with oGoing, is the one about data. So let me just start with data, Ravi. Data, tell me about it, why data is so important, especially for today's startups. You know, tell us how you look at data and what is it that you can really learn from this data.
Sanjay, it's very imperative, you know, whenever you're doing a, you know, either when you're in the early stages or the seed stage or, you know, you're in the growth stage, irrespective of the stage, the data that you get across from both from a customer's perspective, from a product perspective, and from a futuristic perspective, you know, you have a variance in terms of understanding where you are currently and where you can be. You know, neglecting data is killing your brand, is killing your product, is killing your services. For example, if you want to validate a product, which is a consumer product, which is a B2C product, right? You need to have a specific amount of data to have a understanding to launch that product. You know, with a 20, 30 primary, secondary research, you can't do a validation of a B2C product. You need to have a bigger size of it, depending on the population. Now, you need to understand the data for the target audience, the data for the kind of a primary, secondary research, the data for the for the product that you want to pitch in across to them. You know, these kind of metrics are very, very important, and same goes for B2B as well. So unless and until you don't have the data which supports your claims, as we say, in terms of whatever you want to do, you're basically shooting it in the dark. And you know, it's like, you know, if it hits, it's great. If it doesn't, then it doesn't.
But so you're saying if you're not using the data, you may get lucky, but then you don't have a way to scale up because you.
Yeah, correct. So scaling up is more of mathematics and statistics rather than you know what I call as literature. It's not Excel literature as I say. You know, it's very easy to pull down on Excel, converting 100 into 1 million. But if you don't have statistics to how to convert that 100 into 1 million with the data that you have, sets of data that you have, you will never be able to do it. For example, if there's a total addressable market of $1 billion, right? You can afford to get a sweet 1% of it, which turns out to be a million or something like that, a million plus as well. But if the market size, total market addressable market is only of 1 million, you cannot reach 5 million into this market, right? So those kind of data sets, basic broad level and micro level data sets are so important before a product launch, during a product launch, or in the growth stage where you have multiple products, multiple geographies. It helps and aids into your primary and secondary projections.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, one of the data sets we use, on for people's websites, and we track that very closely, is either Google Analytics or a similar product. And what it allows us to do is not only look at where the visitors, or in that sense, prospective customers are coming from, in the sense of, the geographies, but also who they are in terms of interest, or age, or sexual orientation. And importantly, what we look at is, okay, so now that we do know where they're coming from, but are they converting? So one of the other things we look at is, let's say if folks are coming from Orange County versus, let's say Los Angeles versus, let's say, from India, who is converting, who is actually signing up, to be a member of the community, or who is signing up, to take action to download an ebook. Because I think when you install those metrics on your site, and now you follow through on that data, it gives you a sense of, here you're spending all this money on advertising or marketing, or even if it's organic. Now you have a better sense of, who is converting and who is not. So Ravi, is
Right.
that one way? Yeah.
So I think it's very important and imperative, Sanjay, that the kind of data sets, it is also not about the data only. It's also the kind of minute data sets that you want to pull in to get the right kind of understanding of how you want to do it.
Yeah.
So basically, these are the set of how, when, where, what that you need to answer before doing anything. And I think data sets gives you, so if you, as an old saying, it is said that if you torture the data too much, the data starts speaking. So you need to torture the data so much, so hard, right, that the data starts speaking to you. And that is the moment, that is the recharge moment across, that you just wake up and say, hey, I was thinking X and it is actually Y. I'm doing absolutely wrong things. So you need to torture the data first. First of all is to find the data. Second is to torture the data. Third is to torture it so much that it starts speaking to you. That's exactly what happens. And the smart marketers or smart product owners or companies which are selling super smart are the guys who work tremendously on data science, data analytics, and they build that into the marketing funnel along with sales. Why is that, Sanjay, that somebody who's got a great product doesn't sell much, and you similarly find in the same genre you have somebody who doesn't have that same quality product but it sells like a hot cake?
Yes. I think
So it's not just it's because the guy who's selling it more understood the market better by putting the data into the funnel and torturing the data so much that it start communicating with that guy who's selling it out.
It's a great point. That's a great point. I mean, one of my clients today, we're grappling with, so one is they get a lot of calls and leads, from different areas in Southern California. This is where my client is focused. But what we are now saying is, well, it's not just the calls and the leads. What we want to make sure is, in terms of appointments, where are the closed appointments happening? What cities, what locations? And now we want to convert that into like, okay, so now that we know that these are the top 3 locations where the actual appointments are happening for this particular client, they are in the roofing business. Then from that point of view, then these are the places we should focus our advertising even more. But now you're right. One is getting the data. Second is now using it in the right way. And now third is learning from it so that now we can optimize our campaigns even more so to help them grow their business. And again, this data can change, right? It's not something that will stay the same.
It's always dynamic, Sanjay. It's always dynamic. Data changes by the day. Tomorrow you might have a target audience which likes your content. Your content changes, the target audience changes, and it's a complete shift to data. So the data is a very dynamic thing. your content or your product, either ways, whatever you're selling in the market, has to be directly be proportional to the kind of data that is coming into you right now.
Absolutely. Now, one of the other points, Ravi, I saw in the book, and that stared at me like it made me stop. And I think you posed it almost as a question, like know the difference. Know the difference between building a product or a service versus building a business.
Absolutely.
So tell me what you were thinking when you said that, and really, what is the trap right there for an entrepreneur?
I think, Sanjay, it's imperative, and I've worked with many entrepreneurs, seed stage, early stage, and startups in that category where they are technology background folks or folks with marketing background, and they launch their product or services. They forget one thing, that when you launch a product, you basically launched a business. You not just launched a product. So there are other functions beyond the launching of the product that have to be taken care of. For example, the financial acumen of the business. How do you put the cost and revenue optimization? The second is, who's handling the recruitment of your business? Do you need people? How many people would you need when you grow from 100 to 1 million? Have you planned that out? Do you have people who can do that? Who will plan the funds? Who will do the fundraising? Who will do the operational excellence and customer excellence and customer service for the servicing of the product that you've done? So post sales cycle, who will take care of it? So basically, when you look back, there's one school of thinking is, let me launch my product, I will see it later. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. But you need to understand that there has to be a bunch of co-founders or a bunch of team or a like-minded team who can support that kind of mindset. But then you have to still be prepared. The second mindset is, look, I'm launching a business. I'm not just doing a product launch. I'm going to be running it on an orthodox way, in a bootstrap way, with some amount of my saving and funds, and I will run it out. I'm not just running out of crazy venture fund, which never happens many times. 90% of the time, Sanjay, and maybe more, in fact, the data is, again, the data says majority. The majority, I would say, is more than 70-80% of startups globally fail because they do not have a product market fit. Secondly, which includes that there are no customers who are willing to pay. There's no target addressable market. And last not the least, you launch a product which is not solving a problem in the market.
So it was launched on a whim, thinking it might, but it's really not.
So it was like 5 friends, they were drinking on a Saturday evening, and they said, I've got this idea, and he said, great, let's do it. And all those drunk friends made sure that they were best of friends, and they launched. They bootstrapped. Everything was right. The intention was great. The friendship was amazing. But the product was not launched because there was a solving the problem, right? But everybody believed in each other, and that was right. But the product, the market never knew. The market never needed it. So they bounced back, and they felt completely flat on their face. So having said that, basically anybody who's starting anything should think like an orthodox entrepreneur, which is typically that, look, I'm starting a business. I'm just not doing a product launch, and I'm not doing a service launch, right? And I need to take care of these 10, 20, 30 odd things before I started out. I failed myself, Sanjay, many times because I was maybe overconfident that, look, let me launch my product and I'll do it later. When the scale up happens, when the growth happens, which happens automatically because you've done things right, that's where the problem starts. And once you get into those buckets, the growth hampers out. So either you check the growth or your company. So I think if you take a step back and you think about it, that, look, I need to take care of various functions, specific important functions, because I will grow finally. I think if the mindset is there, then it is just not about launching a product or service. It is launching a small business which converts into SMB and then finally an enterprise. And that's the reason why out of 100 early stage startups or small businesses, there's only 1% or 2% would turn to become an IPO or a unicorn or whatever you call it, an enterprise.
I think somewhere in there, Ravi, you mentioned not just a customer, you said the word paying customer.
Yeah.
How important is that? And lot of these companies have these dreams that if you build it, they will come and they start chasing all types of people. And ultimately, you know, the
No,
VC or the smart VC will ask, where is the paying customer? And
the most important thing, and anybody who's listening, yes, correct. So Sanjay, it is imperative that anybody who's looking at testing their beta testing their product in the market for an address in the total addressable market needs to find a customer who's willing to buy a product rather than just testing the product, because these customers will be your early adopters. Like you were an early adopter on LinkedIn, right? I was an early adopter on LinkedIn. There are about 100 million people who are not too active right now were early adopters. And LinkedIn pampered those guys. Remember those old days when the LinkedIn used to pamper those guys. So coming back to it, your early adopters should be a paying customer, preferably, because then your MRR, which is your monthly revenue, recurring rate or recurring revenue, whatever you call it, is taken care of. And you're not wasting your time, because time is also important, right? So it's better to spend your time with selected 20, 30 or X number of paying probable paying customers who are willing to buy your product and services, so that when your product is actually launched, they are your first early adopters. And these are the guys who will become your brand ambassadors, right? Typically when you're in a SaaS business or a tech business, this is the hook mark, right? These guys are not going to talk to 100 people and they're going to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely, Ravi. By the way, folks, if you have any questions, you can either send it via chat, or better yet, you can just ask Ravi, you know, during the conversation today. So this is a fireside chat, just do it. No need to ask me, you know, you can jump in anytime. So Ravi, there is, the times are tough. It's a pandemic. People have to think about saving, saving their costs, minimizing the cost, saving money as much as possible, and yet they have to think about growing. I mean, how do you do both? I mean, on the one hand, you want to make sure you have enough money to see us through the next 6 months, 12 months, whatever it's going to take for us to come out of this. But on the other hand, so you got to survive, but you still have to think about, growing. How do you do both?
Sanjay, this is a very important thing, but I've seen it from a different perspective, and I think the enterprises that I'm working with, or the startups that I worked with, did a smart play in terms of doing it, and I realized how people were doing it, the smarter ones. So if you look at around the brewery business, right, worldwide, there are a lot of smart breweries. When this pandemic started, they pivoted completely from manufacturing of alcohol to sanitizers.
Oh wow! You're saying the breweries themselves. Oh wow!
So now what happened? They knew that alcohol or liquor consumption might go down, right? Secondly, there's a lockdown happening globally, so the transportation, supply, and distribution get halted, so their entire revenues will crash down. However, the sanitization, what is the common thing between liquor and sanitizers? It's alcohol, right? It's the quantity of and the quality of alcohol. The ingredients almost, if not the same, are from the same family of getting it done, right? So they pivoted their business from a normal production to a different production, which is a little like-minded production, not completely the same. So first, understanding and learning in the pandemic or in these kind of stages is to pivot the business completely, but into a different genre, but like-minded genre where you might have an expertise on, and there's a demand. So sanitizer had a demand. They were like asking for crazy across the world, and they thought, okay, why not pivot into this and just manufacturing it out? And many breweries around the world did that successfully. So that was one thing. It is not related to consumption, it is related to usage, right? And there was a market need. So pivoting your business to a market need right now, which might or might not be aligned to your current business, is one way of looking at it.
I see. No, I think that's a great point. I mean, I was reading a story actually on LinkedIn the other day where this particular consulting business, what they did is they started helping their clients completely pro bono. To the point where it wasn't just a half an hour or something. They said, let's just bring you on board. We will, we'll help you, and it will help you do better business in a certain area, which is accounting, let's say in this case. And by doing so, whereas initially they were losing clients when the pandemic started, but when they changed their business model, where they said, we'll just help you the way you need the help right now from us. I think 3 years now, I mean, three months later, the business has grown actually by almost 100% because they changed how they approach their customers by providing them a lot of free services just so the customers, they get, into a complete confidence.
Sanjay, it's important to also understand this, that when you are absolutely at your ground zero, you have nothing to lose.
That's a good point.
And if an entrepreneur thinks about it, look, what is the worst that can happen to me? Right? It is only either the worst that will happen or the second worst that will happen. And second worst is always the best opinion, right? So if you think about all the worst options, it's only the worst option can happen, and nothing worse than, there's nothing like worster and worsten, right? So there's only worst, right?
True.
Right. So if you think about that, and there's no superlative for that. So what I'm trying to suggest here is, and I'm trying to be very sane when I tell this, that think of an opportunity which is your worst opportunity that can happen. From there you start thinking and you come up. There's nothing that you can't go down. So on ground zero, you're actually on ground zero. You'll only come up. You'll not go down, right?
Yeah.
Then you start thinking, saying, what is the worst that can happen? This has happened. Okay, can I pivot into something which is like-minded? Here are my 10 options. Those pivoting has to be market demand related, supply and demand related, right? So there has to be either a market gap which is there, which you want to fulfill, or there are options which are like-minded, or they are related to your industry, for example, right? You pivot in either of these options, you'll have a fair go at it. So I think situation-wise, if you think of the worst situation and then look at pivoting, you can really bounce back in terms of your mindset at least, and you can start thinking on a positive note. And the better you think, the faster you think, you more chances that you'll go out.
Yeah, to add on that, Sanjay, what Ravi is saying, I think the keyword is pivoting. If you are a company and you have some kind of a manufacturing unit or a large corporation, whatever, a small business, and if you are a resource, then the keyword is retooling. And I would like to emphasize on that with an example. Think of Uber and Lyft. When they came in, there was such a hue and cry from the taxi drivers. But some of the smart taxi drivers, they just started driving their own car with Uber and Lyft and was making money. Yep. Now, with this pandemic, Uber and Lyft are down. Now, what do? Some of the smart ones went to UPS and Amazon Logistics and now driving their truck because, those two businesses picked up, skyrocketed. They can't find good drivers to run the routes. So, if you constantly retool yourself, there is enough work.
Yeah, correct. Very true. And I think it's imperative that one has to understand that there is no dearth of good work. There's no dearth of good jobs, or there's no dearth of good opportunities. The only person that needs to understand, okay, here is one other part of it. You see, the best unicorns or the best big businesses came out in the last depression, as we call it, right? Yeah. The last economic crisis that came in 2009, the best businesses came out then. How is that they did not come in 2020 or 2019? And we might see a lot of good businesses coming out of this pandemic as well. We don't know yet. So I think opportunity only knocks when there's actually a need for that opportunity. And it's only smart people who can look beyond not the problems and troubles. I think they look at troubles and problems as yardsticks for crossing them and getting a new opportunity from out of them. That's a capitalist thinking, which is not a wrong thinking, actually, if you look at it.
Well, that's a great point. I think Airbnb, Lyft, Uber, and
correct. Great examples.
Zoom itself, they all came out of the Great Recession for sure. I think, audience, if you have any questions for Ravi, feel free to jump in. Ravi, one more thing, obviously the budgets are tight. Pivoting is important. But one of the other variables that can help your business is, I always look at, what are some things you can do, with shoestring budgets. And one of the things I really love is organic reach, organic visibility, anything organic where, you know, I'm able to grow my business with my effort as opposed to where I have to go out and spend a lot of money on. Can you share some thoughts on that? I mean, can an entrepreneur and owner realistically grow their business or even start off their business in an organic way?
Why not? I mean, okay, here is an example, quick example. I run some of the largest communities on LinkedIn. I haven't spent a dime on LinkedIn or any other platforms. And the largest community that I run, it has got about 400,000 people as of now, right? And I've got about 15 other communities which have anything between 3,000 to 20,000, 15,000 members. Now, I did not spend a dime on those communities, right? And I was a single source. I was competing against the who's of the world who are building communities there. And there are people who have been backed up by big enterprises and they've not been able to build communities. Do they not have dollars to spend? Oh, multi of them, right? But you see, people are smart. You can't fool people. You can't fool people they might get fooled once to buy your product or services, right? But they can't be fools enough to do it again and again and again and again, unless and until there's a right kind of hook, which is the right content. So if you have the right content, people understand it if they can smell through the bullshit, as we say, right? Sorry to use that cuss word again, but I personally feel that people are equipped to sense the right kind of content and they have an understanding of doing it as well. I personally feel, Sanjay, that if your content if you want to really do outreach in terms of organic,
Yep.
I think the only important thing is that you do focus on content which is a quality content which your target audience wants to engage with.
Absolutely.
So if you
Absolutely.
don't have that content where they're not engaged, they will never feel empowered, because engagement, the next stage of engagement is empowerment.
Yeah.
So
Again,
first you have to engage the audience or your target audience, then you have to empower the target audience, then you have to make those people feel good about themselves and what they're doing. And that's the job that you have as a community manager or a content leader or a content dissipator, as I say. If you don't do that, you're not doing the right marketing. Sanjay, you'll have to trust me. I have never used marketing budgets for advertising.
fantastic.
Most of the time, not because of anything else.
Yeah.
I've instead spent that kind of marketing budget on hiring good content quality resources.
Got it. Got it. And I think this is very, very important. And I think to Ravi's point, it was a discovery that we made on another client's website, which has over 200 pages. And, obviously the top 3 pages, which are where they do business, which are the services page. But then we found that for whatever reason, the top, if you look at analytics, from the analytics point of view, one of the top 3 pages was an FAQ page, frequently asked questions.
Wow.
So a lot of people were going there because they needed answers. They wanted to know how this thing is done, whether they can do it themselves, the how-tos. And that actually, we also realized later that was one of the best converting pages. From that page, there were a lot more customers coming versus, the pages that we thought they should be going to convert and becoming, a customer. And that's where, as I say, the proverbial bells went on, and we said, it's time to actually, to Ravi's point, let's create more pages, the how-to pages, where we actually helping a would-be prospect or a customer on ways where they can really learn this, and maybe, they can do it themselves, or better yet, they would look at us as experts and then hopefully come and do more business with us.
Yeah. So Sanjay, not to take away the pride and the expertise of agencies that do marketing for people with clients, but vis-a-vis, if I have to spend $1 in terms of my marketing outreach, I would not spend it on Facebook ad campaign. I would spend somebody who can write content on Facebook. I will still use Facebook. I will still use the platform, but I will prefer using an organic way of right kind of understanding and spend time more of understanding my target audience and their tastes and their empowerment and engagement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Questions
I got a
for?
quick question.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashok bhai.
This pandemic situations getting it so confusing, especially for the small businesses like mine.
Right.
I'm into construction business, so it's a essential business in USA.
Yeah.
All the large and medium-sized companies are laying off the people.
Hmm.
Some small companies also in trouble, but there are a lot of small companies like me also follow everybody, and we had a 25% cut in salary for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, business started growing. We are only doing email blast, and business started growing 30, 40, 50% a month for last 3 months. So it's confusing. Now we need more money to grow. We need to hire back everybody, which we did, but we don't know what will happen in 3 months again. So this is an extremely good news, but it's a volatile news, and how to deal with it.
I think there are two ways to deal with this, and Sanjay will also like to comment on that probably, but I'll share my opinion on this. I think if I had been you, I would, first thing I would probably suggest is to understand what is my organic reach in terms of the market, is to spend some time in understanding what is my total market size for the business that I am in or wanting to be in. If it is X $million or $5 million or whatever it is, who are my competition, what are they doing? I have to do a SWOT of the entire thing, which is basically understanding what my competition is doing in terms of strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? After you've done the SWOT, then you need to play on your strengths, saying my USP is A, B, and C, and I can help the customer in doing C, D, and Y. How to the customer, and you need to answer one question to yourself. First is, how will the customer take your product and services, and what difference does your product and services have as compared to the customer other competition? Now, if you can understand that, the outreach that you can do through an email blast or whatever you plan to do becomes more the conversions will be very high on that as compared to whatever you have right now. Maybe if you are having a percentage conversion of say 5% to 7% opening rate on emails, you might have a 10% opening rate on emails if you do smart content marketing. It will increase furthermore in terms after the opening rates getting into conversions if you do smart USP based content marketing, which values your product services versus competition, so that the customer understands it, saying this guy is honest, this guy has a great product, he has told me honestly that he is better off with the competition with these 4 parameters, let me go to him. So if you become a little honest, compare your product with the competition, give it to the customer, he will not think twice because he probably will value your honesty, and he might spend a dollar extra in giving you the deal rather than going to competition, most likely.
I think, and to Ashok bhai is also the question itself about what to do in terms of now that you're growing, by the way, yeah, Ravi, I second what you said, in terms of analyzing and actually getting more razor focused and more scientifically focused on the market. I think that's very important. I think Ashok bhai, in your case, I mean, if you're growing, that's a great sign. I think the uncertainty is there. So at the back of your mind, the question is always going to be there: is this growth suddenly going to stop overnight? And because it happened before, it could happen again. I would say look at the data, right? The data being at an aggregate level. We have like 20 companies trying to come out with a vaccine very soon, and many of them are in advanced trial. So if I look at that, saying hopefully one of them is going to be successful in the next 3 months or 5 months. So, and if that happens, then it's smooth sailing after that, right? So obviously, then there's no reason for the markets to collapse anymore, because now the optimism will fuel, even more business, because everybody is going to feel like, hey, we're going to be out of the woods very soon. So that's one way to look at the data. Second is just your own outlook, right? I mean, you had a sense of where you wanted to be in your business at the end of 2020, or better yet, where you want to be, in 2 or 3 years from now. If you're already hitting those goals now, then obviously you may want to pause and say, well, are those goals realistic, or do I need to stretch further? But if you're not hitting the goals, then obviously this growth is in the right direction. Then you got to fuel this growth even more and add all the resources you can to get to your desired goal. Uh, in terms of, I mean, of course, you need the minimum people now to service your clients. I think the question is, do you want to invest and get more people on board to service more clients? I think it probably has to go back to what you feel comfortable with. And I'll probably even have Coach Sturdy intervene and maybe share what you're saying, Coach Sturdy.
I'm loving what Ravi's saying. It's
Yeah.
I don't have a ton to add other than, you know, maybe dialing in who your target customer is and really understanding who that individual is. And not just, this is one of the things I keep hearing other people talk about. Well, they keep talking about the traditional kind of demographic breakdown, and I've gotten way away from that. And that's just the only other thing I want to add is that I want to get into their mindset and their desires and what motivates them, what their challenges are, and less about their age range and income bracket and demographic stuff, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Sanjay, I have a point to make on Ashok ji's comment. I think his real problem is trying to find working capital because he is to hire people and then, to work on his site, and then the payment will come later. So 3 things, Ashok ji, obviously you can go for some kind of a loan, and, there are people out there. So, if you have a clean book of account, many people would love. Another thing, for 7%, you can, refinance your work order. But at the same time, you can go to your customer and offer them 3 to 4% discount and take prepayment from them. That will help pay you for the payroll expenses of your resources. And furthermore, get in touch with some other company who can carry the payroll for you and hire them as a 1099.
It's a good point. Great points. Yeah.
Thank you.
And one more thing, I think one more important thing that you can also do is, this is what I suggested to one company in India as well, was that instead of doing a month-to-month billing, you can do a discounted annual billing as well.
Yeah. There you go. It's a great, these are all great.
I mean, it works well because A, you get money upfront. B, you can even give higher discounts. C, he might also look into, from his perspective, the client might also look from a very lucrative discounting perspective on an annual balance sheet. It works either ways, both sides.
Those are great ideas on cash flow.
Thank you. That's a good idea too.
You mentioned India briefly there, Ravi, and obviously India is the market everybody is so excited about right now. The middle class in India, the median
is exploding.
Is exploding.
Right word.
Absolutely. And tell us more. I think a lot of us are here now in the US. What is it that we can do to expand our business in India, both as looking at India as for customers, maybe as suppliers, maybe as partners? What are the top 3 things we should be doing today?
So I think there are 2 things from a very important perspective, and I spend all my life in India, as I say now, as I happily say. There are 2 very defined markets in India. The one is the very defined B2C market, and the second is now very well defined B2B market as well.
B2B in India, that's great.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed like 10 years ago? Like I would have said, there's no way I'm selling in India B2B. That's
but it is there. It's a little cost conscious market, but it's catching up. It's catching up, right? Yeah. Initially, for example, I'll give you an example. Pre-COVID, on-premises servers were a taste of the season for everybody. We will say, we'll not take a cloud. Now, come pandemic, everybody's gone on cloud.
Fantastic.
One shot. So with cloud comes your tech stack, comes everything along with it, right? Adoptions.
Yep.
Private, hybrid, etc., etc. So the digital transformation, which initially were a consultant or a Deloitte or an E&Y were consultants for digital transformation, COVID became the biggest digital transformation consultant to all the companies.
I see.
So all companies were digitally transformed overnight, and now it is a big hub, a very big consumption for B2B business as well. B2C, no doubts. If you have a consumer product, there's no other better market than India, because instead of going to 1200 countries and doing selling there, you do only one country, because each state in India is bigger than a country outside, if you look at it.
So true. So
Right.
true.
So, for example, the population of Delhi is equivalent to the population of Australia.
Crazy. And,
So,
and it's very in a very small area in that sense.
So I'm talking about a 60 kilometer, 60 or a let's put it 60 miles diameter. You have the square miles, right? You have the entire. So would I sell it Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, Adelaide, or should I just sell it in Delhi? I would sell it in Delhi.
True, very well. So you're saying B2C, no doubt. But again,
economies of scale. So in my first book, Sanjay, I address this topic that when you validate your business idea, there are 4 buckets that you have to check, basic buckets. One bucket is, does the product have economies of scale? Second, is it solving a basic problem in the market? Third, please go ahead, sir. Your question.
Oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt. You are doing a wonderful. My name is Prakash Pancholi.
Hi, Prakash.
eGoing meeting before. You were mentioning somewhere around B2B marketing in. I'm from Mumbai, and there is a gentleman here. His name is Hari Kurani. He's in the board at UCR, and he did educational marketing in Mumbai at Marriott in Ville Parla, where I'm from. And I helped him do that one. And it's a big, huge clientele for B2B marketing in Mumbai.
Right. So and it's across, I guess. It's a see, because from a perspective of consumption and perspective of giving, right? From a dissipation, right? Both sides, India comes as a very sweet spot, because the population is extremely well tailored for accepting that kind of products and services, because the median age is less, the average age is less as compared to other countries around. So the adoption of new technologies, new processes, and new product and services is extremely high. So that is the basic of it.
Go ahead, Prakash.
Yes, because another thing, having a B2B meetings in India, Lucknow Taj Hotel for a conference room charges somewhere around 12,000 rupees. That includes so much stuff. It includes food and beverage, not hard drinks. But
that's Taj Gomti Nagar.
Correct, in Gomti Nagar.
That's less than $200. You're saying, wow.
And
it's a beautiful property. I've stayed there a couple of times.
Bandra Marriott Leela Panda. This is one of the finest 5-6-star hotel. And that one also, there was a conference done up there, and this is what Mr. Hari Kurani did that also along with Marriott, and I think it cost me somewhere around less than $1,000. He had attendance of about 200.
Amazing. No, I think you're absolutely right. The B2B market in India has exploded in the last 10 years. And what is fascinating, Ravi, for me to see is the likes of Zoho, right? And so many new product companies which have actually, grown their business globally, right? I mean, what's fascinating is now we have Indian product companies which are selling all over the world, and they're finding a market not only in India, but they're finding a market for their products everywhere else. And to me, that shows a change. It wasn't there before. Like 10 years ago, we did companies selling, Mahindra, for instance, the products that Mahindra makes. Of course, we all know Tata's of the world, and of course, let's not forget Jio, right? Reliance Jio, which is now its own company, Jio itself, and how they carved out a whole new market for over 100 million consumers in a matter of months. And those examples, obviously, they had a huge backing. But I mean, are we seeing still? Is it the cusp, or are we still seeing growth? I mean, I guess there's always that question, like, has the market already happened, or is it still happening?
No, it's happening as we talk to Sanjay, because a lot of the tech adoption has just started. If you talk about it, it's there, but it's pushing up the quadrants across. So there are a lot of tech companies that are coming up and the tech adoption is getting a little across the roof. Thanks to the pandemic, the adoption is very fast now, right? So example, imagine somebody in India remote working. Now entire India is happily remote working, right? It would have been possible in Europe or US or Canada or Australia, because that's a developed mindset as well, right? There's a mindset also towards things, right? But this couldn't have been possible in India a year back. Even if you're spoken about, tech companies have this remote working. They already had it, whether in India or US. Google had it long time back. Microsoft had it to a certain extent. But now every company is remote working, which is a tech company in India. Happily. And the word is happily.
Happily, yeah.
So it's in sync. So I would say things are changing and evolving at a very fast rate in India. If you have a SaaS-based product, which is a B2B or a B2C product, this is the right time to invest your $2 or $5 of your mindset into India and build your economies of scale from now on. Because after 6 months or 5 months, things will get up and running. All the big daddies will come and push money into it.
I see.
So this is the time for SMBs and early stage companies which are US based or otherwise to invest their time and energy into the biggest consumer market in the world to set their bases right.
I think we are past 11. Any other questions for Ravi? If go ahead, please. And we want to make sure we are.
Yeah, Ravi, you were going through 4 questions, and we kind of got interrupted.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, sure.
So I'm eager to hear what they are.
Oh, sure. So the first one is, as I said, you need to have an economies of scale for your product and services. This means, like, for example, China works on this philosophy, economies of scale. If you go to an international market, there's a famous joke where an Indian, an American, and a Chinese go to a trader and they present their products. And these are 3 economies I would want to just push it for the sake of it, right? So the American says, I have a great product. It's $100 and I can give you a 2% discount. Very tight-lipped. I say, my quality is huge. As Americans, always they're proud of it. So I believe in that as well. The Indians, typically mass market mindset says, look, and they want the customer so bad, and they're willing to compromise a little, the mindset as well. So he says, okay, fair enough. I have something which I'll pay you for $1,000. I'll give you a 20% discount and I'll give you 100 products free along with it. Better deal than the American, right? Chinese comes into the picture and he says, you've seen their deals. Now here's my offer. In $1,000, I will give you 1 million products and give you 5 million products free with it. You have no options but to take it. Because what he's done is, he's asked you to sign a contract for the next 20 years. While you don't even think about it, he will take out the money in the next 20 years. That's how they dominate the market. Nothing wrong in it. They're capitalists. You can't blame those guys, right? They're not asking by a collar to pay the money. They're not taking money from you through a robbery. They're smart enough to understand that I will take money, but I will not take it right away. It's like a duck who's laying a golden egg. You don't cut the duck horizontal and say, I'll take out the eggs right away. They say, I'll keep feeding this duck for another 20, 30 years. That's economies of scale. So if you want to play on economies of scale, you need to find out the addressable market and float it accordingly. So that's one way of looking at things on a validation perspective. The second is you're solving a basic problem in the market. For example, right now, if I start my food business, which is a restaurant business, that's the most ugliest thought that anybody can give me right now in a pandemic. Nobody will come here. 90% will run away unless it's SoCal or what does that say, Sanjay? Where the maximum number of people have been infected?
Georgia, they're dining out. There's a bunch of them. We're not being smart.
Texas,
correct. So Texas is on top of the mind. My friend says that. So he said, let's go to Texas right now.
They close it very well afterwards. They learn the lesson.
No, Sanjay, but so the thing is, if you're not solving if you're solving a problem, am I starting a food business? Am I solving a problem right now? No. But if I start using, say, and alternate medicines to allopathy, which is say a homeopathy medicine or a Ayurvedic medicine that has a possibility of curing COVID, that is what will probably dent in healthcare right now. So is it solving a problem? Is the second number thing. The third number thing is, do I have paying customers? I'm not solving a problem. I'm not doing economies of scale, but I have Citrix, I have Cisco, and I have Microsoft as customers who are willing to pay for my product. To hell with everything, I can start my business.
I see. Good point.
Last not the least, I am disrupting the market completely, like what Elon Musk, like Elon did, right? Who in the world would have thought 10 years back that somebody, a private SpaceX, will start a Falcon, which will start from one place, get into space, play rock music there or trance music, come back and dock in the middle of the ocean, and somebody and the owner will tweet relentlessly from 7 o'clock till 12 o'clock.
And they catch the damn thing in the ocean, believe it or not.
Absolutely spot on.
And believe me, now they're catching it, but there are many times they were not, and a lot of people forget that.
Imagine NASA was the big boy in providing the rockets to all the international things. Now NASA is a vendor for them.
Absolutely.
Right.
How things change.
Completely.
That's disruption. Domination, disruption. Tesla, SpaceX are domination, disruption. So your product bucket has to fall in any of these 4 buckets. Exceptionally well if it falls in under all of them. You have a killer. Then only God can stop you from failure, which is basically a bad team.
That's a good point. I think on that note, I would say this was an awesome fireside chat, Ravi. Really thank you for all the inputs. I don't think even an hour and a half is enough for us today, but we have to
thank you very much.
Be
Thank you for your
mindful
patience,
of our
guys.
audience. No, I think the points were amazing. I think we'll all agree. Do you all agree with Ravi and his thoughts? Absolutely. Everybody's nodding.
Great.
I think we'll bring back Ravi, for a follow-up fireside chat for sure when he's ready to launch his next book. I'll be happy to do that, actually. I look forward to doing that. And again, thank you everyone for joining us today. Be well, be safe, be healthy, and most importantly, be hopeful. Let's all hope for a better tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you, gents and ladies.
Thanks,
Have a great time,
Thanks, Ravi.
guys.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Sanjay.
Take care. Bye-bye. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Coach Sturdy. Thank you, Prakash, for joining.
Thanks,
Koshi and everybody else that are still here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You are so upset.